Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Dant, and I'm the PCA Region Focus Coordinator. Welcome to the second quarter HPDE webinar presented by Mia Walsh, PCA National DE Chair. Also joining us this evening is Chris Lennon, DE Committee Chairperson.
Laura, thank you so much. Everybody, Laura does this by the graciousness of her own heart. It is not part of her PCA responsibility to host my calls. And I think that she does it because she told me that she learns things from it. So Laura, thanks for giving your time tonight. I appreciate it. And thank you to Chris Lennon, who will be moderating the chats. Chris is a member of the HPDE committee, the national committee, as well as the Alpine Mountain region and a racer to boot. So as always, I like to thank our sponsor, Pirelli, for their support of our HPDE program. We are very thankful for the funds that they give us that permit us to travel around to all of the regions and hosting our national instructor training schools. So thank you, Pirelli. A bit of a quick agenda. We've got some welcome and announcements. I'm going to talk a little bit about some data privacy, out of region events, passing safety protocols, insurance coverage, and some marketing strategies. And it's just going to be a little tip of the iceberg on the marketing strategies because we're working on a few things at the National DE Committee level. So I just wanted to talk about some of the things that we have available coming on. Some photos from recent HPDE National Instructor Training Schools in April. And I'd like to say a big welcome to some new HPDE leaders. We always have some changes in leadership, and I do get emails throughout the months in between our calls and people in new roles who aren't receiving any of our communications from the National HPDE Committee. So just a reminder that your president must update your role in the PCA National Database. So just remember that the president will send that information to Charlotte at PCA National, and then you'll start getting my emails. You'll be able to see if you've been added to the email list by going to pca.org. You don't need to be logged in to do this particular search. You would just click on the Contact tab and then go to Region Officials. And you can sort that by region. And if you click on your region, you can see who's listed in the roles there. And that is the official distribution list of who gets notifications from me and my committee. All of our communications go to the zone reps, the presidents, the HPDE chairs, the chief instructors, and the safety chairs. So just a reminder that goes through Charlotte at PCA National, but it has to come from your president. I cannot make those changes. A couple of announcements. We are looking for any kind of DE historic items for the display for the 70th anniversary at the parade in Oklahoma City. I received a request from Linda Goodman, who was our historian, the PCA National Historian, and she just stated that all of her archives are from national, and the DE and autocross were really region events, not national events, and that they were such a big part of the backbone of the programs that she hates to leave them out. So if you have anything that you might be willing to temporarily part with, you can give Linda an email there. I have it posted, or you can shoot me an email and I'll put the two of you together. We would like to have that in place by June 10th at the PCA National Office so they can get it in the containers that are being shipped out to the that was last year, the Oklahoma City parade. Or you could have someone bring it out yourself as well. So that was a little public service announcement from our historian. This is just a reminder. I wanted to bring it up. I haven't talked about it in a while, that we do have a helmet extension for the SA 2015 helmets. Normally they would expire in December 2025, good for the 10 years. But as in years past, there is a delay with the manufacturers. They aren't looking to be able to have those helmets available until October at the earliest of 2025. So just a reminder to let your drivers know that we do have that as a extension. And if there is an inventory or supply chain issue in the fourth quarter of our 2025, that we may extend if inventory is an issue. So as of now, they are valid through February 28th of 2026. Just a reminder, I've talked about that before. I'd like to welcome all of the new PCA national instructors. We've been super busy for the last 2 months in the National Instructor Training School program. We have had 8 National Instructor Training Schools since March and April in those last 2 months. And we had 97 new national instructors successfully complete the program. We have a slew of them coming up in June and for the rest of the calendar year. So we'll be adding to those quite a bit, but I would like to take a special thank you to the 3 national trainers who have been working with me to attend these schools, Chuck Tucker, Carol Neal, and Ellen Beck. We have been roller coastering it through all the way across the country and back. But we've been delighted with all of the classes that we've had, and certainly equally as delighted by the candidates that have now successfully completed and are PCA national instructors. So congrats to all of you. If your region is looking to hold a national instructor training school, it's not too late for 2025, but it's not even too early to start planning for 2026. So reach out to me. I know I'm working with a couple new regions this coming year coming up, and we'll be glad to add you into our calendar. Okay, I'm going to start with a few of the question and answers that have come through. So as always, I do ask for the participants in the call to send out their questions in advance so I can prepare for them and build them into the hour long that I have blocked for this call. And so the first one was from Mitch Lewis from the Inland Northwest region. Just wondering how it's going drawing up the minimum standards for a PCA driver skills program. Well, Mitch, I would preface this by saying you saw what we've been doing for the last 2 months, and it's been a complete whirlwind with the National Instructor Training Schools. So we haven't made a lot of progress. It's completely my fault. I have an amazing team that has agreed to assist me with this driver skills piece of a couple of the things that we're going to be doing with the driver skills. And I've got Kevin Grealish out of the Pacific Northwest and Pat Scheel through the Lone Star region and Dana Camoli out of Chicago. They all have an excellent driver skills program. It could be called car control, the verbiage of what it's identified as. You kind of use either of those terms interchangeably. And our ad hoc committee has 2 parts to it. First is to develop the minimum standards for what we would call either the driver skills or car control. And then basically a handbook, a 101 handbook that we could hand out to regions who are looking to implement either a single event or multiple events throughout their calendar year. And in our discussions, we did talk about the minimum standards and have identified that they would be less stringent than what the current autocross standards are, and that they would not require helmets. Of course, a region, like always in DE, a region can have more stringent minimum standards than what the national standard is, but you cannot have anything less stringent than what the national standards are. So that is the general focus of where we are on the standards. Again, completely, I just simply have not had time to concentrate on it. I have 3 very willing gentlemen who are waiting for me to get back into the seat. I'm finally out of a couple of the all of the work that we've been doing with the National Instructor Training, so can now focus on it again. The 101 handbook, we're looking holistically a little bit as a whole bundle. What is the program and who is it serving? So we're identifying who the proper target audience would be for this, and then developing components of the program. Like I said, when we announced this at the March quarterly webinar, most of the stuff is developed already. So it's just a matter of sitting down with the programs that we have in front of us and picking out all of the pieces that we think would make a turnkey, pass it over, and any region can just take it and run with it. So that is the short answer of where we are right now. Again, more to come, more to come, more to come.
So Mia?
Yes.
Mitch actually had a follow-on question on the driver skill thing.
Okay.
Just pointing out that there's no post-event observers form that's suitable for driver skills right now. So I don't know if you had that on your list, but we
did have that on our list because we are also looking at some of the event reports for HPDEs as well, because they're not perfect for what we're trying to do in the HPDEs, and that is the all of the 3 different reports. But thank you, Mitch. We did have that on our list, and that is a very good point. But thank you for reminding us about that. But we did have that on the list as well. We talked about this. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but these are the different items that we see as components of a driver skills or car control clinic, learning about the car and the inspection, the vehicle dynamics, vision, threshold braking, slalom, swerve to avoid, skid pad, learning oversteer, understeer, as well as a myriad of different items. Actually, I will just pause there, Chris, because I have been flying by. You know how I like to make sure that I'm in my 1-hour time slot. Were there any other questions up until this point?
No, that's it so far, Mia.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, next on our agenda is data privacy. And I just wanted to bring, I get things from all over the country, and I did have more than one data privacy issue that came up since the last time we were together. And I just wanted to talk really briefly about that. When you've got registrants that are participating in your programs, both the major registration systems that we have, Motorsport Reg and Club Registration, do have an ability to export data. And that data could be personal information, it could be email addresses. Some collect date of birth, most don't, the way that most of the regions have that set up. But I had a region that gave their driver's list out to another organization trying to help promote an event at the track where they host a lot. And I did get a complaint from one of those registrants who had not given their permission to do that. And so just a reminder that PCA National in the region procedures manual has a whole section on data privacy. I have a little blurb of it on the screen, but basically, we shouldn't be sharing our mailing lists with outside businesses, even if they're your sponsors. We shouldn't be sharing their mailing addresses. We can communicate some sponsor information, but it should come from the region itself and not providing that data to sponsors or other outside businesses. Down at the bottom, it says the privacy policies by regional clubs. So in your club's bylaws, you should have your own data privacy language. Again, with the leaders that I have on here, mostly the DE leaders and the safety chairs, that's probably not under your purview, but I just wanted to make you aware that we really need to respect that the data that our registrants give us should be protected. And I'm just putting that out there. Okay, I've had a couple of situations come up with out of region events. I put some of these logos down in the middle because these are a couple of places that I've just been in the last 8 weeks. And it's wonderful for me to be able to see how every region runs their events. And they're all different. Basically, the framework is the same, but the little details and intricacies are a little bit different. And we often have region drivers go to other regions to participate in driving in their events. And ultimately, it is the driver's responsibility to understand the region's rules where they will be driving, but are an organization that should be based on customer service and making the experience of our participants the highest quality. So I have put in there, that being said, let's not be jerks. I have gotten some complaints about drivers participating in other regions and not being treated well or being treated poorly. Again, it is the driver's responsibility to understand the rules where they're driving, but I'd like to put a little bit of empathy and kindness on our region leaders who are running these events. And I know that you have a gazillion things on your plate already when you're running an event, and massaging every single driver that comes through. You know, our DE registrars, God bless them, are some of the hardest working people in the DE program. Just identify a couple of areas that I've seen firsthand, as well as have received suggestions. I'm not going to say complaints, but I don't like to use that word, but they could be complaints. So the first thing is pre-event tech inspection. I have another slide that's going to go into a little bit more detail. Tech Forum and Hans is another area that seems to be an area of consternation. The assignment of the run group when you're running outside of your own region might not be the same as where you're running. And then instructors. We have a lot of instructors that come from out of region to instruct at an event. And so helping those instructors understand these items. So let's just talk a little bit about it. The pre-event tech inspection. Let's say, for an example, I want to drive at the iconic Barber Motorsport Park. And Alabama, I'm not picking on you. I'm just using an example. I need to get a 30-day tech inspection for my car before I come down there. And they might have a list of tech inspectors that are their authorized tech inspectors. So it might be really difficult for me to get down to their particular authorized inspectors. So I'd like for us to be a little bit working with these out of region drivers to, prior to them coming down there, working with them to find they have a suitable inspector in their own region, to get a pre-approval before they go through that process, to allow them to use someone locally to them. You know, obviously there's got to be some due diligence, that it has to be actually, someone that you would be comfortable with doing the inspection, but just a little bit more working with a driver from out of state and getting a prior approval before they show up there. Again, it's on the driver to be able to follow your rules, but I also would like to see a little bit of working together for the regions when you've got an out-of-state PCA driver coming in. Tech forms are a little bit trickier because, as you know, some of the regions might have 30-day, 60-day, 120-day, 90-day. And of course, the region's tech form is the one that supersedes. So we may have drivers that don't know that there is a different tech form for the region. What are some things that we could do? Have the registrar tell what region the drivers are from in the registration system. So have the registrar unfortunately make like one more extra step and ensure that the out of region drivers know what your tech inspection form policy is. We had a situation where this was pretty recently. We had an event at a track, and there was another organization that had an event at the track adjacent prior to the PCA event. And that particular organization does not require HANS devices for harnesses. So the fellow had been driving for 3 days without a HANS device for his harness. This was actually a situation where we can't bend the rules on something like that. So the fellow was very perturbed that we wouldn't let him drive since he had been driving with another organization for the last 3 days. But in that instance, he hadn't done his due diligence in understanding what our rules and regulations were. In that particular instance, the driver ended up buying a HANS device at the shop at the track. So just these are a couple situations that might happen, and communicating our rules in advance is a little bit of an extra step for our registration people or for the event organizers, but it could just make or break someone's driving experience with PCA. Run group assignments is another situation where you might not be put into the same assignment group. Obviously, we know that all of the colors in the world are different from region to region to region, but someone else's highest run group you might not be placed into that one right away. So again, it's up to the local region to decide where you're going to be placed. So what are some things that you might be open to as a driver at attending an out-of-region event? They might suggest that they do a checkout ride before they move you up. Don't be a pain about it. If that's what they intend to do, they just want to make sure that you're placed at the right pace and safety precautions as what they're normally running at. That it's not something to get irate about. I've seen so many emails with all capital letters lately. And, I teach my students in high school, when you type in capital letters, you're basically yelling at somebody. And I've just seen a couple of those come through where people were obviously very upset that they weren't placed where they wanted to be placed. But it is up to the host region to place you where they think you should be. And if you have to do a checkout ride, then that's it. What can you do as a driver? If a region that you run with uses motorsport reg and the host region uses club reg, they can't see your history. So if you're attending an out-of-region event, be proactive and download your driving CV from your registration links. Both Club Reg and Motorsport Reg, a driver can do that to show their history, and proactively reach out to the registrars of the event where you're attending to say, hey, this is where I'm driving, this is what I'm driving, and start that discussion way long before you show up at the event, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Instructing protocols. Again, I've been at the racetrack a lot since March. I think I've literally been to 8 or 9 different racetracks just in the last 2.5 months. And I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've seen an out of region instructor who, in their region, signing off somebody right away is something that they do. They might run with them for a session or two and then sign them off. Or their car broke and they skedaddled and didn't let the chief instructors know that they were leaving the student behind. I had an instance where the instructor's car broke and the instructor just told a guy that he was paddocked with to take his student out. And that person wasn't an instructor. course, they didn't get far. They didn't have an instructor band on, but having these out-of-region instructors familiarized with your region's protocols is super important. And so an easy thing for you to do is just ask the out-of-region instructors to stay after the driver meeting or instructor meeting to just kind of go over some of the policies, like soloing a driver. What are your policies? Been to some of region events for 2 or 3 day driving event where they don't allow any solos on the first day. They want the instructor in for all 4 sessions. What is the policy on giving a demo ride? The PCA standards say that you can take them out one group level above where they're placed. But again, some regions might have more strict standards than what the PCA national standards are. So I guess what I'm asking is that, we're all one big PCA family, and there are going to be situations where people aren't going to be completely familiar with how your region runs an event. And just to remember that customer service is a big part of retention and having people come back and participating in the events. And I know firsthand that it means extra work for your people and the people that are running the events, but just to have a little bit of thoughtfulness when you're dealing with any out-of-state drivers or instructors coming to your events. I only had 3 questions that were submitted in advance, so thank you to those 3 people. And this one was from Gary Klein. This isn't his question, but my next slide's going to be his question. And so, Laura, I'm going to have you launch this question for the tech inspection. I see that the poll is open.
55% have stayed at 30.
Okay.
29% have gone to 120.
Okay.
And 12% have moved to 60.
Okay.
And nobody's moved to 90, and just a couple people aren't sure.
Okay, perfect. It's a little different than what I have another slide that shows what the last time I asked. So I figured that there might be some movement. This is going to be a chat question. So Chris, I didn't forewarn you about this, but I'd like to just get a pulse check on those regions that have adopted the 120 days tech inspection, only the 120 day people. Can you just throw in the chat if it's been going well, if you've been having issues, or just how it's been going for your regions? And that would have been the 29% of you that responded that you went to the 120 days. So I'm going to screen because we did ask this same question at our March quarterly meeting. And so it looks like staying at 30, now it's 55. And back then it was 36%. The 120 days then was 36%, and now it's 29%. And obviously this could be just a matter of who's on the call. I'll be able to see it by region. 60 days was 12% now, 18% back then. And I don't know, it was probably a little less now than it was back then. But just so the numbers seem to swayed more to the 30 days right now. And I'm wondering, Chris, if you've gotten any feedback from our chat friends of the 120 days.
Yeah, from a few regions here. So Adam at Upper Canada says we're still at 21 days. Acadia region members, Alex says, are huge fans of the 120-day tech inspection forum. Paul Ty says no issues with 120 days. Michael Handelman says too early to tell. John Thompson says 120 days are going fine for them in RSP, but just at the first event, so not really different yet. We'll see if any issues come up later. Vince Romney is saying so far so good. We do have top tech at the track just to see if there's any obvious issues, but we aren't seeing any significant differences in the cars. And then Alan again from Upper Canada, we have 6 two-day events between May and October. We want a tech inspection for each event. The high average speeds and long covered corners are hard on brakes. We've had a good record having done this. Robert Yen of AMR said, yep, they switched to the 120-day form. There's been some confusion on whether or not registrants need to keep a copy of a part of that form or not. And Robert Brewington says it's working great, saves the drivers time and money. And that's all I got so far.
Okay, well, good. On the incident reports, we haven't seen a surge in mechanicals, but again, as one of the participants mentioned, I think it was Michael Handelman from Big Sky, I think, that they're early in their season. And I know Acadia was happy about it because, they're very not densely populated up there. And so drivers had to drive 2.5, 3 hours just to get a tech inspection at the shop. So I hope that answers the question that had come in. I was happy to hear from you all that so far so good, but it's early in the season. Okay, moving on to my next agenda item. It's 9:35 on the Eastern time, so I seem to be going pretty well. I'm going to talk about turn signals and passing safety. So I drove my first event with turn signals at VIR in April, I think. I'm going to move to one screen forward first. So I was in my GT3 RS, hadn't used the turn signals, and I hadn't using my hazards to come in pit in. And I'm not perfect. I hadn't really thought that I wasn't going to be able to see where my hazard button was, but with my helmet on and my hands on and my restraints on and my harnesses, I'm looking all over my dash to find where my hazards are. And as it turns out, you can see that they were below my shifting. Well, that's not my manual car, but below the gear box. And I was freaking out because I thought I'm going to be driving around in circles and never going to be able to pit in, because I literally had to end up pulling on one of the straights, making sure nobody was behind me, pulling my helmet down to find out where it was. So lesson learned. I could have put my hand out and done it the old-fashioned way, but it didn't take me long to find it. As I was telling this story in the paddock, one of my former students, who's a solo driver now, told me that she bought these sticky chair pad things and has put it on her hazard button so she can feel it, which is an amazing, simple problem-solving piece there. So I just wanted to share that with you in case you have one in a weird spot. So fast forward to 2 weekends ago, I was at Watkins Glen, and I just was walking through the garage and was looking at where all of the different hazard buttons are in cars. Some of them are pretty easily visible, up on the dash, pretty high up on the dash. But I came to one of my friends who has his data acquisition system, and the hazard button is behind the data acquisition. Obviously, he's further on the left as the driver. So he struggled as well by having to stick his arm around the data acquisition system to hit the hazard button. Using your old fist out works as well. So that is what he continued to do for the event, is using his fist out hand signal to pit in. But I wanted to share that story because it's new to some people. Again, I hadn't driven with the turn signals till VIR last month, and it didn't occur to me that I wasn't going to be able to find my hazard button. So shame on me, and shame on me for not realizing that I could have just stuck my hand out and not panicked about it. Hand signals. So the month before that, early April, end of March, this is my little mother lecture to all of you out there. And I got an incident report on one day, on a Friday, of someone taking a pass without having received a passing signal with the hand. No passing signal was given, but the person took the pass anyway and ended up with car-to-car contact, and both cars were pretty damaged. Within 2 days of that, I received a complaint via email that another driver took a pass without a passing signal, and it did not result in car-to-car contact, but it was a blatant disregard of our passing etiquette. What makes matters worse is that both of the people who took passes are people who have been driving a very long time and may have leadership roles in the organization. And so I felt obligated to give a call out to one of the drivers to find out why would you do something like that? And the driver was being held up by someone that was slower than them. Well, what would you expect me to do? What would I expect you to do? I would expect you to either pit in and have the black flag station throw out the passing flag or get some more space, but I certainly wouldn't expect you to pass somebody without a passing signal. 2 days after that, I got another incident report of the same thing. So within a week and a half, I had 3 incidents with people taking passes without a passing signal. 2 which were in car-to-car contact, and 1 that was just a pissed off person that was on the track with them. I was at another event and at a very, very slow pace I was in the passenger seat, and it was at a training event, and the driver passed without a signal. And I thought it was part of our role playing, but turned out that it wasn't. So I came in and had a little talk with them, and they said, well, oh gosh, I guess you're a rule follower then. And I said, I literally wrote the rules. So yes, I am a rule follower. But here again, this is the people who probably should be hearing this, probably aren't even on the call, but we set the example for everybody out there. And if we're not the ones that are making the proper decisions, how do we expect the people coming up through the ranks to do so? And so I'm just putting that out there. It is not okay to pass without a passing signal. And if you have drivers that are doing it, please black flag them. Please bring them in and lay the law down, because it's not safe. And to have our beautiful cars get dented up because of an impatient driver is setting a really horrible example for everybody else that's in the paddock. Okay, lecture over, moving on. HPDE insurance.
We do have one question from Adam,
Okay.
asking if you'd be willing to clarify / divulge the car-to-car contact was in a hand signal or an indicator turn signal region.
All of those incidents, all of those that I just talked about, every single one was hand signals. Every single one. So yes, that it was not an indicator. These were all hand signals that were not given, and passes that were taken without a hand signal. I don't know if there's a follow-up to that one, but I purposely put this on the slide because I didn't want people to think that there was confusion with the turn signals or the blinkers. Gary brought this up. I've talked about it before, but your car insurance company could be stalking you in a couple of ways. If you have the app on your phone that gives you an additional discount for insurance, those can and do track your speeds and where you're driving. I had my insurance company. I can see I have a pro LinkedIn account, and I saw them going through my LinkedIn profile, and I do have my race cars on my LinkedIn profile. I have separate track insurance for them, as well as more than my car that's street insured with them as well, but I have a separate track insurance for that as well. But just know that those insurance companies might be watching you if you care, but that's happening out there. I have 4 slides on HPDE insurance. I'm going to breeze through them. I'm only bringing it up again. I've talked about it a couple of years in a row.
Wondering, is it acceptable to run windows down for novice/with instructor and windows up for solo run groups? So can you do a mix of that across run groups?
Absolutely. Yep. You can. What are you saying? So windows down using blinkers, or windows down with hands?
I think what he's saying is windows down with the traditional hand signals for novice groups where you have instructors in the car, but when you're doing solo run groups, you could have windows up and use the indicators.
I believe our minimum standards say you have to pick one for the event, but can switch the whole event. Say, for example, if you're running windows down with hand signals and then it starts to storm, with a driver meeting, you can switch everybody to turn signals, but you can't have mixed, is what the minimum standards say, if I'm not incorrect.
Yep, pretty sure that's right. Yep.
But with turn signals, you can run with your windows up or down, and that can be an individual person's decision. So for example, my last couple of events that I've been running with turn signals, I like the windows down so I can hear my tires, so I can hear my engine, so I can smell what might be on the track in front of me or coming out of the car in front of me. And frankly, I get pretty hot in the car. I'm not going to run with the air conditioning on. So I run turn signals with the windows down. Most people run turn signals with the windows up, but you can't mix and match. Okay. I think that we answered that. Thank you, Tim. Okay, going back to insurance. So I've been doing a couple of the national instructor trainings, and the instructors aren't aware that we do have personal coverage for medical. And I'm going to direct you to Ken Laborde, who is the National Insurance Chair. He did, and every year does, a region focus on insurance and risk management. It's on PCA.org under region focus. It's number 73. I think it's maybe 5 or 6 down. And he really goes into the detail, which I'm not going to go into, but I want you to see here that we've got bodily injury liability. I'm going to talk about that a little bit on another slide, but event officials, participants, members, volunteers, instructors, event and region officials, crews, and sponsors. If they have signed the waiver and you have a certificate of insurance for the event, they will have coverage. And so if it's an accident, there's a participant accident coverage as well that would cover excess medical expenses, I don't like to say that, by accidental death and dismemberment, loss of income coverage. And if it's for anybody that signed the waiver, and it doesn't have to be a car accident, it could be somebody that fell in the paddock or was on a scooter and fell or tripped or hit their head or anything along those lines. So those are all accidents that would require a incident report and have coverage if they have signed the waiver. We all know it doesn't cover damage to cars participating in the event. It doesn't include any damage you've done to the track or the Armco or the bags of kitty litter that they have to put down if your car is leaking oil. And there's specific criteria as well for spectator events, which we do not run our events as spectator events. Non-PCA co-hosted driving events. So we don't allow PCA regions to co-host a driving and HPDE event with other organizations, but we do allow co-hosting events with other regions. That's going to help me segue into our next piece of marketing. I want you to think about that for a second. It doesn't mean that for the non-PCA entity, it doesn't mean that we can't support them or we can't invite them, but they can also publicize our events and we can publicize their events, but it's never okay to co-host a driving event with an outside organization. Again, this is all going back to the insurance, but I suggest that you look at both the Region Procedures Manual. You can see on the bottom left-hand corner, there's a whole section number 6 of the Region Procedure Manual is about the liability insurance and coverage. But Ken does an excellent job in not legalese terms talking about coverage for our participants and instructors and drivers, etc. Question number 3 came in from David Hodges from the Maverick region. Can we work together to increase the participation of club racers instructing or attending HPDE events and increase HPDE drivers' awareness of club racing? So 2 different questions. And Dave, we are actually working on both of those. I am in conversations often with Connor Henderson, who's the club racing business manager, as well as Van Svensson, who is the new club racing marketing manager. Connor is a paid staff member of PCA. Van is a volunteer and has been honestly like knocking it out of the ballpark, doing such a great job with thinking out of the box for some marketing ideas. David Rodenroth is the me for club racing, but I've really been concentrating on the marketing pieces with Connor and Van. So what has already taken place, David, is, and you can reach out to probably either Van or Connor on a couple of these things. They've been doing lunch for HPDE drivers, or a lunch talking session for advanced DE drivers during a DE. They have slide decks that they can send out as well for HPDE drivers who are looking to club race. They did a webinar that's recorded, I believe it was maybe a month and a half ago, for HPDE advanced drivers and what it takes to get into club racing. They have started doing race schools, which we've never had before. And I have a slide that shows the different race schools that are out there, but your advanced HPDE drivers can attend one of these race schools and get a PCA club racing license. We've never had that before, so they're super pumped about that one. And then to get more HPDE drivers, that maybe people that are watching club racing on the live stream, we had 2 commercials for the HPDE program, a 90-second commercial and a 30-second commercial that are played during the live streams. We are working on, but of course, looking for funding and looking for approval. Van and I were talking about different ways to entice club racers to attend HPDE events as either drivers or instructors. And we're trying to take the onus off of the region and put it on the club racers to give them some incentives to do that. I don't want to talk about it now because we haven't gotten it approved and we haven't worked out the details yet, but just know that at my level with Connor and Van, we are working on those 2 things. But David, in particular, you can reach out to either Connor or Van directly to help with the increasing HPDE driver awareness of club racing. These are the race schools that are being held. They had their first one, actually 1, 2, 3 of them have been held already. There's one coming up down in, I think, Eagles Canyon's down in Texas in June, and then a couple of different tracks coming up in the third and fourth quarters. So these are just some other ways to get the HPDE drivers into club racing or understanding of the club racing. Their cars don't have to be total club racing cars to participate in that. All right, I only have 2 minutes left. So I am going to talk, as I said, this is like the tip of the iceberg, but just to kind of go pretty quickly through I have 3 slides. So I have marketing strategies for your HPDE program. I have an easy, intermediate, and a little bit more difficult. So many regions out there don't use the PCA.org events calendar. If you go to PCA.org, you have to be signed in. You have to have a certain role within your organization, but you can submit an event and then it populates live into a calendar that you can filter through HPDE or any other, a location, a track. If you know that you want to drive, you can type in Watkins Glen and then it'll come up with all of the different regions that are having events there if they've put it into the PCA event. People use it all the time. We've got 160,000 members. So that is step 1, easy peasy for you getting your program out there and your individual events. Your zone reps also send out newsletters or emails. So if you have an event, have your zone rep shoot it out to all of the other regions in your zone. I think zone 12 or the zone down in Florida has 12 or 13 regions all within that area. So if you have an event, have them share it out there. Your region has Facebook and Instagram. You as the HPDE person might not have access to that, but send the information to your social media person. We have a HPDE Facebook page where you all can post your own items. If you're not part of that HPDE Facebook page, shoot me an email. You can look online and you have to answer questions for me to admit you. Some basic things, people don't email their past participants. And so a super easy thing is just go through, and both MSR, Motorsport Reg, and Club Reg have functionality where you can email past registrants to tell them about what events you have coming up. We're not marketing people. There's a online program called Canva. So easy, drag and drop. They have 7 million templates out there. You can just type in your stuff over top of it. Okay. I'm at my limit, but I'm going to get in another 2 minutes. Difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. So work with your local BMW and Audi clubs to cross-market events. Refer back to what I said to you can't co-host them, but you guys can share each other information. We have a lot of regions that do DE 101 presentations in the preseason or in the middle of the driving season to let people know everything, the simple things about the DE program and to entice them to participate. As I mentioned, we have the 30 and 90 second little promos that are out there that talk a little bit about it. That's on the PCA HPDE YouTube channel. And then another simple, easy thing is offer a discount for a first-time participant. And both MSR and Club Reg can track first-time participants, and you can give them a code to get that off. For the little bit more difficult to arrange, but co-host with a joint event with a nearby PCA region. And I pulled up the events calendar earlier today. I saw that Metro and Niagara are co-hosting an event at Watkins Glen. So they're pairing together. So they've got, double the marketing of the population of their programs of people who've driven with them before. So partner with another region to co-host. Or, on the East Coast, we have a lot of regions that'll send like 20 drivers down if they want to participate in an event. So you can talk to your regions that are around you and tell them that you can give them early registration to get in or allot some spots for them. If they say we have a group of 20 people that is coming down, or we've got a group of 10 people that are coming down. Remember what I was talking about with be kind to your PCA family members. Work with them to have them come to your events, or choose a back-to-back event with other regions or other organizations at iconic bucket list tracks where people might not want to come down for a one-day event, but if there's 3 days of driving opportunities that they might be able to do that. Okay. That is the very tip of the iceberg on the marketing strategies. A little shout out to War Bonnet is hosting a DE at the end of the Oklahoma Parade on July 12th at Hallett Motor Racing Circuit. Registration is open for that. You can find that on Club Reg. Mia Walsh, my email address is hpdechair@pca.org if you need to contact me about anything. Big giant hugs to my National DE Committee, and especially Chris. Thank you for moderating the chat. We've got representatives from a lot of the different zones around. And again, a special thank to my PCA national trainers who have been helping us out with the National Instructor Training Program. That is all that I have, Miss Laura. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. I'm sorry that I'm 4 minutes past. You've got my email if you need to reach out to me, and I will bid you a farewell and a good night.